Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So since I got my Bvlgari Serpenti Viper bracelet about 4 or 5 months ago, a lot of you guys have asked me to do a review on the bracelet, and a lot of you guys also wanted to see a comparison between the Bvlgari bracelet and my Juste Un Clou bracelet from Cartier in the small version. So that's what today's video is going to be all about. I'm going to split this review and comparison into 3 categories. So the first one is going to be focused around the looks of these 2 bracelets. The second part is going to be around durability, wear and tear, as well as maintenance. And then the third part is going to be about the price and value for money. So I hope this review comparison is helpful for you guys, and let's get into this video. Okay, so I first want to talk about the similarities between these 2 bracelets, and honestly, there's not that many of them. So the main similarity really is that both of these bracelets are wire bracelets. So instead of having like a hinge and some type of locking mechanism, these bracelets just twist onto your arm and snap into place, and both bracelets are kind of bendable. The other similarity is that on each of these bracelets, the ends of the bracelet don't just meet, they kind of overlap a little bit. So if you see right here, let me show you guys close up. So on both of these bracelets, you see how, like, for example, the head and the tail of the serpent just overlap a little bit. There's about 4 scales worth of overlap, and same for the nail on the Juste Un Clou bracelet. So those are the main similarities between these 2 bracelets. Everything else about them are just so different. So I'm going to first start with the Bvlgari Serpenti Viper bracelet. So this, as I mentioned, I got it about 4 or 5 months ago. And I have it in the demi pave version in the rose gold. So it has those little diamonds on the head as well as the tail of the serpent. And I've been really loving wearing this bracelet just on its own. I mean, it is a very striking bracelet and it is quite bold, even though it's not like a very chunky bracelet or anything. Especially with each individual scale, there is a lot of detail all across the bracelet, and I find that this looks the best on its own because the texture of the bracelet tends to kind of clash with other things, and like I mentioned, this is enough of a statement on its own, so it doesn't make sense to have it kind of share the spotlight with other bracelets of mine. I would say that if you did want to layer this bracelet, it looks the best with bracelets that are kind of like rather plain. Like if you had a very thin tennis bracelet or something like that, or for example, I'm thinking of other kind of like designer branded bracelets. Like if you had the Van Cleef & Arpels, is it called like Pearls of Gold or something like that? I'm talking about that bracelet from their Pearly collection. That's basically like a really thin beaded bracelet, but in a bangle form. So either that or like a thin tennis bracelet would look nice with this, but not clash with the scales. Or of course, you can just layer multiples of these together. I saw this picture of Zendaya basically with like a whole stack of these Serpenti Viper bracelets on her arm, and that looked really gorgeous. And if you didn't want to layer like multiples of this exact bracelet together, Bvlgari also makes kind of like a bangle version of their Serpenti Viper bracelet. And yes, the width of the scales is different, but I also think that looks really nice together with this since they are from the same collection. So I think those are some options of stacking this bracelet with other ones that may be in your collection. And let me show you guys how I usually wear it. So I usually wear it so the head of the serpent is higher up on my arm, which is actually different than how I wear my Juste Un Clou bracelet. I wear it like the opposite way. I'll get into that later on. But this bracelet is just so stunning on. I really love how intricate those scales are on the serpent, on the stake, all along this bracelet. It just adds this nice bit of texture to the bracelet, which I don't really think you get on the Juste Un Clou bracelet because it is just smooth for the most part of the bracelet. And Bvlgari does make this bracelet in 3 different versions. So they have the one that is fully metal, which is the newest addition to this collection. And then they have the one that I have, which is the demi-pave version. And then they have one that is like a faux pave. It's completely covered in diamonds. I personally absolutely love the version that I have. I love that it has a little bling to it, but it's not so overly sparkly that it doesn't make sense to wear it on like a day-to-day basis. I think this works for both everyday wear as well as for special occasions. I've worn it for both and I think it is just so absolutely stunning. The faux pave version, yes, it is really gorgeous because, as I mentioned, it's completely covered in diamonds, but I almost feel like it doesn't make sense to overpower the intricateness of the scales with all those diamonds, because when you have all those diamonds covering the entire bracelet, you really can't see the scale design. So it kind of takes away from like the uniqueness of this Serpenti Viper bracelet. And then for the one that is just completely metal, I think that looks really like industrial, and there is this kind of like edginess to it that kind of reminds me of the Cartier, their Clash line. But for me personally, I think this demi-pave version is basically the best of the 3 because I love how those diamonds draw attention to the head and tail of the serpent, but you still get to see the scales all along the rest of the bracelet. Okay, now moving on to my Cartier Juste Un Clou bracelet, which I have in the rose gold. This is the plain one without the diamonds on it. And yes, this does not look all that rose gold. It did used to be rose gold at one point. I've owned this bracelet for over 3 years at this point. And I would say even by the 1 year mark, this already didn't look all that rose gold. I'll talk about it more in the wear and tear section, but I just wanted to mention it right here. So this bracelet, I don't really wear it all that much on its own. Usually I stack this with my Cartier Love bracelet, also in the small version. And I just love how well they stack together. So basically, I don't really wear this stacked with anything else. I don't really wear this on its own. I'll show you guys how I usually wear this. So I usually wear this with the nail head closer to my hand, and then I usually have my Love bracelet closer to my wrist, and then the Juste Un Clou bracelet is higher up. And yeah, I love how it looks like that because with this nail head that kind of sticks out a little bit, it gives it some separation from the Love bracelet. If it was facing the other way, it wouldn't have that. So I like how it looks like this the most. I just am not a big fan of just wearing it on its own, probably because it is a little bit too dainty for my liking. And that's kind of strange to say because I do like my dainty jewelry, but I feel like on your arm, there is so much surface area. So I like it when there is just a little bit more of a presence to it. So that's why I usually stack it with my Love bracelet. They do make this small version in 2 different versions, I guess. So they have this one without the diamonds, and they also have the ones with the diamonds on the head and the end of the nail. And honestly, I wish that I had gotten the other one. I have this plain version because when I was gifted this, they didn't even have the other version out at the time. And I always say this in all my videos, but since it's a gift, I would never trade it, like sell this one to buy the other one. But yeah, honestly, if there was the choice between the 2 of them, I would get the one that had the diamonds. I feel like that would make this look a little bit less plain. Like I mentioned, with Cartier pieces, they tend to have this kind of like industrial look to them. So yes, this one, when it's plain, it does look very industrial. You know, it's basically a nail wrapped around your arm. So yes, I do wish that it had the diamonds to it, which would make it a little bit dressier. I have worn this for special occasions, but honestly, I see this as a piece that is more suited for everyday wear. You know, it is pretty simple in its design. I mean, Cartier is definitely not really under the radar because it is such a popular brand, but the design itself is pretty under the radar in my opinion. So I think the biggest concern for people when it comes to the wear and tear of these bracelets is whether they will lose their shape over time because, you know, it is a wire mechanism. It's not solid metal inside. And honestly, for both of these two bracelets, I haven't seen them get warped or anything. Of course, I've owned the Cartier one for much longer than I've owned the Bvlgari one, but both of them look just the same as when I purchased them. So I don't really think that is a concern unless, you know, you put like a lot of force onto these bracelets to really change its shape. So for the Bvlgari bracelet, this is actually not something that I've ever worn 24/7. I mean, I kind of tried it out at the beginning, but I just was not a fan of wearing this, especially to shower. So if I take it off to shower, then I might as well not wear it to sleep. So the reason that I don't like showering with this is because if you look all around the bracelet, there are these little crevices, these little slits all throughout the bracelet. It's on the sides as well as on the inside. And you know when you like get your hand wet for too long or something like that, and the skin just kind of becomes like weird. Like for example, if you take a bath and when you get out of the tub, like your skin is kind of just like, it could be like white and wrinkly. I don't know, it might sound really gross as I'm describing it, but you know, water does get into those little crevices, and because it's up against your skin, it kind of stays wet longer than it otherwise would. Not to mention, because there are all these little crevices, I feel like it just gets kind of like gunky faster if I keep it on 24/7. On these little edges all around the scales of the bracelet, it tends to also collect, you know, just like gunk in it. So I do clean all of my fine jewelry in my ultrasonic jewelry cleaner. But aside from that, I do also kind of like spot clean this too with just like a toothbrush. I just kind of like scrub at the little crevices and the little corners and whatnot once in a while, just to keep it kind of like in tip-top shape and sparkly and whatnot. So yeah, this does require a little bit more maintenance, and I would say that this does kind of feel a little bit more delicate than my Cartier Juste Un Clou bracelet. The reason is that there is this kind of like gap between the two ends of the bracelet, so I can kind of push them together. So usually they, you know, stay a little bit spaced apart, but I can basically kind of like push them together, and I can kind of like squeeze it and whatnot, and that just feels a little bit more delicate to me. I mean, it's never gotten warped in shape like I mentioned, but you know, it just feels delicate to the touch is what I'm trying to say. Aside from that, the scales still look really shiny. There's not really any scratches that I can see on it, and yes, for the most part this is kind of like a flat surface, so if there are any major scratches, you would really be able to see it so easily. That's not to say that it won't eventually happen, but for now the metal still looks really shiny. And another question that I've gotten in regards to both this bracelet as well as my Juste Un Clou bracelet is whether the ends of the bracelets gets caught on your clothing. And I haven't had that happen even a single time with this bracelet. And I think the reason really is because if you look at the ends of this bracelet, it's actually not that thin. So it's not thin enough for it to be caught on clothing. So if that's a concern of yours, I don't really think you need to worry about it for this bracelet specifically. As for the wear and tear on my Juste Un Clou bracelet, as I mentioned, I've owned this for over 3 years, and for a bracelet that is supposed to be not all that sturdy, you know, it's flimsy, it's hollow inside and whatnot, this has really held up great. As I mentioned, you know, the color did change over time. Aside from that though, there's nothing really wrong with this bracelet after wearing it all this time. So let me just first talk about the color first. So as I mentioned, this was initially rose gold, and I would say that right now it's more like orange gold if anything. If you look at it, it probably looks more yellow gold than rose gold. I mean, if you compare it to actual yellow gold jewelry, you do notice that, you know, it doesn't really look yellow gold, but at the same time it doesn't look rose gold either. So this is probably the only piece of rose gold jewelry that I own that has really changed color like this. From my research, it's bound to happen to like any rose gold jewelry, but yeah, I haven't really had that happen to any of my other rose gold jewelry in my collection. This is the only piece that I have ever really worn 24/7 for an extended period of time. So I guess it's not really comparing apples to apples. But anyways, enough about the whole wear and tear of the rose gold color. Let's talk about the rest of the wear and tear on this bracelet. So to speak on whether this gets caught in clothing, I've had it happen just like a few times, which for owning something for over 3 years, wearing it 24/7 for probably 1.5 of those years, I would say that having it get caught in my clothing just like a handful of times really isn't all that bad. And I think it's down to how I wear this bracelet. So usually, as I mentioned, I wear it so the head of the nail is closer to my wrist. And it's usually up against my love bracelet too. So I feel like because of that, it doesn't really get caught on clothing, because as I mentioned with the Bvlgari bracelet, the head of the nail is really not all that thin. It's really the other end of it that's really thin and could easily just like loop its way into like a looser knit. So do keep that in mind. I think it really does depend on how you wear it. And from photos I've seen online, it seems like people do tend to wear it the opposite way as I do. So I don't know. I don't think it matters how you wear it. If you're worried about it getting hooked onto stuff and you don't mind the look of it with the kind of like the front part of the nail closer to your wrist, maybe wear it like that. That's all I can really offer for you guys as a solution to this bracelet getting like caught in your clothing. And also, this bracelet hasn't got warped in shape at all over time. I do tend to sleep on my side, but I sleep on like my right side, and usually I wear this bracelet on my left arm, so I guess it never got, you know, like crushed under the weight of my body or anything. But at the same time, I have worn this 24/7 to sleep, to shower, exercising, like everything in between, and it hasn't gotten warped in shape. So personally for me, I think that is pretty amazing, considering that, you know, it doesn't feel all that sturdy. You know, I can tell that it's not solid inside, because if I kind of like squeeze at it a little bit too, I do feel like a little give with the metal, but it kind of feels like safer than my Bvlgari bracelet, because when you put this on, it kind of like snaps into place. The head of the nail kind of just touches against the other end of it, like the sharp end, and that's how it kind of stays when it's on your arm. I mean, if you push it further up your arm, then it does stretch a little bit, but it pops back into place. Whereas with the Bvlgari one, you know, like it feels like it's a little bit more bendable because there is that gap to it. And the final thing I want to say about the wear and tear of this bracelet is that even after having owned this for over 3 years, I still don't see a single scratch on this bracelet, which is honestly pretty impressive. And I think it's really down to the fact that it is this rounded shape. So as I mentioned, I usually wear this with my love bracelet, and I've owned both bracelets for the exact same length of time. And honestly, my love bracelet just looks so beat up in comparison to this. There's so many scratches on it. I feel like that kind of like adds to the look of the bracelet, so I don't really mind it, but yes, there are a lot of scratches. In comparison, this still looks really shiny, and aside from the fact that the color of the metal has changed over time, I really can't say anything bad about the durability of this bracelet. So for the last part of this comparison, I wanted to talk about the pricing as well as the value you get for your money for these two bracelets, but I don't really want to focus on the exact prices as of when I film and upload this video, because these designer brands are always increasing their prices. So the current prices as of when I upload this video might not be the prices when you come to watch this video or when you go to buy these bracelets. So what I think is more useful is kind of pitting the two bracelets against each other and comparing what's more worth it in that sense. And when I think about it like that, hands down, the Bvlgari bracelet is a much better value for your money, because this one bracelet kind of does it all. If you only wanted to have one single bracelet in your jewelry collection, I think this could be it for you, because this is substantial enough on its own, and this could be worn for a day-to-day basis. It also works for special occasions. And when you're spending like so much money on a bracelet, you want it to be something that you can wear like as much as possible. And I don't think that is necessarily something I can say about this Juste Un Clou bracelet, because this, you pay a couple $1,000s for this, and you kind of still feel like you need to spend a couple $1,000s more to get something else to stack with this to complement it. And yeah, in that sense, it just doesn't feel like it's super worth it. And for me personally, I have owned this for the exact length of time as I owned my love bracelet, so I never felt like I was really missing anything. But I could imagine that if I only had this Juste Un Clou bracelet, I would kind of feel like I needed to, you know, get something else to stack with this. So because of that, I can't really say this is the best value for your money, even though I think this is really pretty. I really like how industrial it looks, and it is unique, definitely much more unique than the love bracelet. But yeah, I just think that unfortunately, when it's up against the Bvlgari bracelet, the Bvlgari bracelet just completely wins hands down. And also this Bvlgari bracelet, especially if you get it in this demi pave version, which I would encourage you, whether you're getting the Bvlgari bracelet or the Cartier one, get it with the diamonds. I think you would enjoy it a lot more. But especially for this Bvlgari bracelet with the diamonds, you get some pretty substantial diamonds with this bracelet, especially on the head of the serpent. Those are some pretty big diamonds that you do not get with Cartier. And it's overall like a higher carat weight too, but it's not necessarily the total carat weight that factors into, you know, like the pricing, but it's about how big the individual diamonds are. And honestly, these individual diamonds are pretty substantial, whereas on the Cartier bracelet, those diamonds are probably just as big as like the tiniest diamond on the tail over here. So yeah, I really do think this Bvlgari bracelet, even though it does cost more, I think it is more worth it. So that is it for this video reviewing and comparing the Bvlgari Serpenti Viper Bracelet to the Cartier Juste Un Clou bracelet. And I really hope this was helpful for you guys. Hopefully I answered any questions you had if you're trying to decide which of these two bracelets to get for yourself, or maybe you have one and are trying to figure out if you should get the other one too. I hope this has all the information you need, but if there's any questions you had that I didn't answer, let me know in the comments down below and I'll definitely get back to you guys. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do consider subscribing for new videos every single week on luxury and fashion. And I'll leave 2 videos on the screen for you to watch next, so I'll see you very soon. Bye for now!